It's the Real Anglers Podcast with community Kevin Brannon, brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Islands Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. Promar and Ahi USA. Premium fishing products and accessories with concepts developed by passionate anglers. Eagle Claw. American ingenuity and craftsmanship since 1925. Mudhole, the world's largest inventory of rod building and tackle crafting components from the best brands. Mossy Oak. From hot days in the water to sweltering afternoons in the woods, we've got you covered. Outfit your obsession. Special thanks to Subaru of Ventura and the Latino Business Expo. And now, here's your host, Community Kevin Brannon. Today's guest, Paul Ward, homeandranchteam.com, and his podcast, On the Road with Paul Ward. Okay, so this is the Real Anglers Podcast with community Kevin Brannon, and today's guest is Paul Ward. We're going to introduce Paul in just a second. He'll tell you what he's all about, and Barry just wanted to say good morning, so take it away, Kevin.
All right, I got a joke for you guys. So we're talking about the bear, right? And we're doing this presentation with probation. And since I am the Caliente Cow Bear, and we're talking about caring in this particular presentation, we're going to make a Real Angler Care Bear. So we're going to put the Community Kev logo on a Care Bear because I care a lot, right? It was funny. We had this little joke, and I thought it was just perfect because Caliente Cow Bear, Barry, that's our state animal. There's bears all over the place, right? And California is mine as far as I can go, as far as our outdoor activity and fishing. Like I'm the new Hugh Hauser of California, and it's the bear. So anyway, Community Kev is a Care Bear, right? Care a lot. And we're going to put that logo because we teach our superpower is letting people know nothing is impossible. Paul, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
What do you think of that?
That's an awesome thought. I like that.
So this is Paul Ward right here. I'll do a quick introduction. Me and Paul met. We're part of the Millionaires Club, Rebels. We had that conversation this morning at our breakfast. I've been doing more subbing in for other millionaires. And Millionaires Club is a networking group where there's only like one per business. So there's no other nonprofits. Paul does in real estate, right? There's only one of each category. So that's where I met Paul. And then when I went through the first time home buyers assistance program, and I was starting to look at houses before there was an increase in the rates. Interest rates, right? When I got priced out, Paul showed me a house or two. So he was my real estate guy for a while. As we're still, on that path, he's still going to be my guy. And then I actually did his podcast where he came in here, and I think we had something like 6,000 viewers. So everybody that we have that come on the Real Radio, it's business. There's some personal relationships that we have, networking groups. We do a lot of networking. So we always have like these stories that go along with our guests. They're all special, but we don't have anybody that I don't have some type of a history or stories to tell. So we don't script the show, and then that's just an introduction. And then Paul, why don't you go in and tell our viewers, we're going to talk about what you do as far as your 9 to 5, or as an entrepreneur, there is no 9 to 5, but right. Also about your podcast and things that are coming up, and then just shoot the shucks a little bit. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Shoot the shucks. I like that.
Yeah, shoot the shucks.
So I wear two hats. My long-term hat is I've been a realtor, real estate broker, active since 2002. So coming up on 22 years this November, working throughout Ventura County, California. And it's been quite the ride. So, lots of stories to tell. So I can certainly get into that with you. And then the other piece is I have a podcast called On the Road with Paul Ward. And twice a month I have a guest just like you. Once a month I go on location, bring a crew, interview that person at their place of business or their house or their nonprofit. And then also once a month I typically do an in-house interview where I'm sitting at my desk and they're at their desk. So twice a month I try to interview somebody, and then I throw more work-related videos into the mix. So 4 times a month I'm posting something, but have about 12,000 followers right now.
And what made you want to do the crossover? Like, is there just something you wanted to do multimedia? Like, how did you go from selling houses? Did you see a need, or you wanted to start talking about houses and getting away from not just doing that? Because it's good, I think, not to just be one dimensional, right? We all have other passions and other things that we like, and so was it just a way for you to be able to kind of tap into that market? See how we did that there? Tap into the market? Or
Sure.
What kind of got you wanting to do, going into the multimedia of podcasting and stuff?
Sure. Well, I actually went to a Tony Robbins event, Unleash the Power Within.
Ooh, we love that development. I'll tell you what.
LA Convention Center, 20,000 plus people, 72 languages.
When was this?
God, probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
And it was intense. And,
how many days? I watched his documentary, so I know he does like
4
days of development.
4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And each speaker was just amazing. I can't even describe it to you. But anyway, getting in line first day, talking to a girl in line, and she was basically saying that I wasn't going to get back to my hotel room till like 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got to go to bed at like 11. You're full of crap.
That's a late night.
What are you talking about?
Go ahead.
Well, long story short, yeah, I got to bed at like 2:30 in the morning, just like she said I would, for 3 nights in a row. And the first day, or I should say the first night, 12:30 in the morning, I'm like a sheep walking to the edge of a cliff with 15,000 other fools, and we're going to be walking on hot coals with no shoes. And I shit you not, I forgot what I was doing until about halfway across this bed of coals. And then, because your mind is so in the zone, right? You forget that you're walking on fire. They literally make you forget that you're walking on fire. And then about halfway across, you're like, oh crap, this is hot. What am I doing? I'm like waking up out of the trance, right? And then as soon as you get across to the other side, there's somebody there to hose your feet off and pat your feet dry. And then the next, fool is walking, right behind you.
Wow.
Intense. I mean, it just truly intense. And so came home from that experience and was talking to my assistant one day that I wanted to, start a podcast where I was interviewing folks. And back up a little bit, I was doing a internet radio show, mutual acquaintance of ours.
Just off-topic stuff, or
yeah,
about housing, or what?
Well, I was talking mostly real estate related, and I would mostly talking to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had about 6 months worth of stories, and 30 minutes, and I would just talking to my phone, and then I would send the story to the producer, and she would throw it up on the internet with about 15 other shows.
I should do that with Scotty. I would record this thing on rec on my phone about a topic, and then I would send it to Scotty and put it on that. I would come up with some topic as I was killing bugs at a house and some type of philosophy thing, and I would just talk in this record app, and then I would send it to Scotty that was working the desk at Orkin, and he would put it on our XM radio. That was one of the ways we started generating our stuff. So that's right. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
but keep going.
That's right.
Keep
so
going.
Talking to myself, and one day I'm talking to the lady that had convinced me to do this, and she's all, you had 1,200 people listen to your show last week. And I'm like, what? And it's like, who are they? Where are they? And she's all, well, I don't know. They're all over the world. And I'm like,
that's what's cool about it. You got to go all over the world, right? With the modern day technology, right?
Yeah, and it was cool. It was interesting, but I was like, I don't know if that's going to do me any good. It's like, if somebody's in Nova Scotia, I'm here in Southern California, and it might be an interesting story for them, but I don't really know where this is going. But I enjoyed it, right? So after about 6 months, I started to give her stuff more intermittently, and I just was running out of stories to tell. And told a little bit of a white lie. I was sitting across from a lady at a Rotary luncheon, and she was the perfect guest. I mean, I would just absolutely love to talk to her. And so I hadn't done a show in maybe a month or two.
Hey, let's back up real quick. Is that the same Rotary that made a donation to the Guppy program?
It is the same Rotary.
All right, let's just send a shout out real quick. Thanks for the support. Thank you for the support.
Cambria Rotary Club. And I said, hey, I've got this podcast, which was a little bit of a white lie at the time, because it was an internet radio show, right? And I'd love to have you be a guest. And she said, great, I'd love to be a guest. So I'm at my place of business. She's in her place of business, and great 30-minute conversation, and I realized afterwards, hey, you know what? The topic was great, but the lighting sucked, the sound sucked. I need to figure something out, right? And so I did a few more of those, and I was talking to my assistant one day, who's a virtual assistant and lives, 2,500 miles away. I said, I'd love to have a show like Huell Howser, and you mentioned him a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And she's all, who? And I said, you know what? I'm going to give you a pass because you're too young and you don't live in California. So why don't you Google him and get back to me? So she comes back to me, and she's, watched Huell Howser. And now she's screaming in the phone, and I have to be out in Fillmore because I'm going to be talking to this train engineer, and then I'm going to be, taking the train to a Christmas tree farm, and I'm going to be talking to a Christmas tree farmer. And I'm like, what? It's like, I was
right there at the, that's pretty cool
and
spot, though.
And I was thinking, like, I'm just talking out loud. I wasn't thinking like she would set this up for like the next day, like no shit. And I was like thinking like a year from now. I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't know, but I got this all dialed in for you, so you just need to figure it out. So I called my photographer, who in turn called, thank you, sir, who in turn called a videographer that I had used for some, expensive high-end real estate properties. And they were able to come out last minute the next day in the evening, because they were going to be filming a music video in the desert during the day. And I'm not shitting you, I had a microphone shoved in my hand. I had a farmer, his wife, and his 2 daughters, and I'm interviewing them, and I had a bonfire behind me with smoke in my eyes, right, from the bonfire, right in my face.
I'm picturing all this too, because I know what he's talking about.
And now, 24 hours after I mentioned it to my assistant, I am Huell Howser interviewing a Christmas tree farmer.
So she did her research quickly.
Yeah, and then
booked you up and put you in the line of fire, basically, really, realistically.
Yes, and then the train came in.
Pretty cool though, that train. At least I know that part, right? It's like the Polar Express.
And all the people, it was turned into the Polar Express.
Yeah.
All the people jumped off to pick out their Christmas trees, and my videographer captured the whole thing. And
what was this? This was 6 years ago, or was this?
No, this was 4 years ago.
Okay.
And 4 years ago, and then we threw it up on Facebook just for very, very little money, and I think 3,500 people watched it. And I was like, holy
that's
crap.
like a Christmas story, man. You guys created your own version of the Christmas story.
Yeah, and then they sent me the bill, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
You got a bill for it? You did the work and you got a bill?
Well, no, the videographer and the sound guy.
And, what is that bill by chance? Just you remember?
It runs over 1,000.
So just go ahead and have a sip of your water. I'll talk for a minute and take a drink. Is that, again, when you do production, right, and you see what goes on, people think when you do production that it's simple. But to have a crew out there and to capture all that, like, because you wanted to go, like you said, from the lighting to better quality, right? That comes with a cost. Just so I wanted to throw that out there. So when you hear people, when we say we do video and what we're doing, videographers and your team, that's why there's a cost. Because if you want good product, which we're doing ourselves right now with growing and expanding our team, from Kevin holding the camera, right, and having the lighting and having a microphone up and somebody doing all that, just wanted to just lay that out there that there's a production cost to things, folks. So just something to be aware of. But if you want quality, don't be afraid to invest in that. So
and I all of this kind of was after the fact, right? I was just talking out loud, telling my assistant, hey, I'd like to do this. She took it seriously. She ran with it. 24 hours later, I'm actually doing it. No time to fret, because the opportunity was put right in front of my face, and instead of freaking out over the bill, it was like, then so many people watched it on Facebook. The question became, oh, we had this much success with the first one, what are we going to do next month, right? We got to do something next month. And so that's been consistent now for 4 years.
And you cover this bill every month?
I cover this bill every month. I do have a primary sponsor that offsets a good portion of that.
Thank God.
And I just make sure that, I provide them with as much business as I can.
Well, that's the reason I asked that is because I just got off the phone right now with Costa sunglasses, right? And Scotty here, you guys know Scotty. So they wanted to see the numbers that we get from this show, and then the numbers we get from Mossy Oak TV and our viewership numbers. So that way they could come up to help us offset some of the cost for us to go, because we want to film 12 episodes next month. So for me to go on the road,
12 a month.
No, I'm sorry, next year. Woo,
Okay.
sounded good. One a month.
Right.
12 episodes next year. But that's not counting our one-offs if we go out and do some other stuff. But the full 21-minute complete episode with the editor, videographer, going on the road. And so again, we needed those offset that. And we have, so far we have AFCO, right? That's committed to funds. And we've possibly have them in Iowa and a couple other, we're just waiting because they got to get through September. But just letting you guys know, again, this is what filmmaking and all this stuff comes. But your product and your quality is great and you're doing what you love. So it's all worth it, right?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I mean, for me, it's not work. I just, you and I are sitting here now, and now if I was interviewing somebody that I didn't know, right, that I had secured through my various channels, I would be doing research, right? I would create an outline. This is my rough outline.
Well, you did it for me, so I know.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah. You interviewed me,
Yeah,
so I was on his
interviewed you.
show.
That's right.
And he got the bill. I mean, and there was 3 cameras set up, so this is what we do, right? And we're right now with no internet and everything, and we have cameras in here, right? But the internet's so bad that they're pixelated, so we're just getting by on what we have, so we can still produce our video. But your guys showed up with 3 cameras, took up the whole front living room. Plus, I'm a filmmaker, so I was trying to help orchestrate and move tables and help them out because it was a production, man.
Right.
And you had your questions ready for me,
Yeah.
and you had me sit down, and we talked about everything from the TV show to the Guppy program. So.
Right.
We do, like I said, we have a story.
And it flowed, right? There were questions that I asked you that were not on my sheet. It wasn't like I was going 1 through 30. Most of my questions were just off the cuff, right? But you'd say the sky is blue, and I'd say, well,
yeah.
why
So
is the
I
sky
think
blue?
because again, our friendship of us renting a house and spending time before your research, you maybe didn't have to do quite as extent for me particularly, right? Because we had a bond already, right? So let's talk about that real quick. So what got you into? What was your history leading up to getting into sales and homes, and where the market's at today for people that are buying? Do you see, because as me being a homeowner, I think there's a new era right now of everything from people that are how they're making their money, right, to engineering and these different ways that are the old ways of people's occupation that are still being people to purchase homes. Eventually, one day, it's just kind of a restart, a re-kick after the pandemic of first-time home buyers, new families, first graduates from college that are going to be getting families and building like a. I always see things set up as what's down, like forward thinking, right? So first a little bit about how you got into the real estate, from what industry you came from, and then maybe what's going on.
Sure. So I stumbled into real estate. Thank you for asking that question. So I stumbled into real estate. My dad died in 1999, right before Millennium and Y2K, and the world was going to end.
Right. The first time or the 15th time it was going to end.
Right.
That's another topic.
And so I did not know this until after he passed away, because I had never technically been to his house. It's a long story. But I inherited about 10,000 antiques. He was both a collector as well as a hoarder. So there's 2 different things, right? Collecting, you like to display what you purchase. Hoarding is you have so much stuff you can't even display it if you wanted to.
Are we hoarders?
You're
display?
You're a collector.
I think we utilized every inch, but I get what you're saying.
You're a collector. So, and these were not like, this was not junk. This was antiques. I mean, from super simple to, museum quality stuff. But at the time, my girlfriend and I at the time were, oohing and awing over everything for a few days, until finally it was like, oh my God, let's just get this crap out of here and throw it into 2 giant storage bins where it, sat for a year or longer before I could figure out what to do with it. I bought my brother and sister out. I basically gave them cash for what I thought was their portion. And so now I had the 10,000 items, and it was a ticket for
10,000.
10,000.
That took me a second for that to register.
It's a lot. And it was my ticket to get out of my previous career. I worked in the political world, and we won't go into that.
And you guess who's the president now of the Millionaires? You're right back into politics.
Right. I forgot what I was getting out of it. Right back in. So I quit my previous job, and I declared myself an antique dealer. And everybody at work thought I was just absolutely insane. But
is this around the time of I'll let you get into it. Is this time where you like an eBay type of thing, or or something like that, where you're able to start?
eBay was becoming more and more popular. I was not doing eBay, but I was cataloging my collection, and I was meeting crazy dealers and crazy collectors, and it was really an opportunity to learn about my dad, right? Why did he collect? Why did he hoard? Who did he meet?
Stuff in there,
A lot of historical stuff in there. Learn about my family. So there were a lot of reasons for me to do all of this, and I ended up in a shop with 12 other dealers. I had the cool stuff in the back room. I had my own room, and all the guy stuff, right? And real stuff, not fake stuff. I had the real stuff. And so I started making a name for myself. I started doing shows up in the Bay Area. I was doing the Hillsborough Show and the Danville Street Fair, and collectors were starting to learn about me, and that they certainly knew my dad.
Anything without losing chain of thought, some of that, throw stuff in there and throw the person off. Anything in there that you've kept to this day that was just super cool that stands out?
Yeah, I have about 200 items still. Some of
Any of your top, anything you could?
Yeah, I've got some really cool stuff that I don't want to say too much, but Disney kind of, let's say, heavily borrowed from German fairy tales.
Okay.
So if you look at some of the Disney characters, they didn't just come out of thin air. They're created from older stories. And so if you see some of the earlier characters from,
I know the Seven
fairy
Dwarfs
tales
were different. I know that was from Saved by the Bell. That was one of the questions in the Geek Squad thing was they didn't actually have names. They weren't named later until Disney got it. They didn't have any names or something. Anyway.
Yeah, and I've got some old clocks and some other German steins and just some stuff that remind me of my dad. I mean, not that stuff that I would actually have bought myself, but I just appreciate them for what they are and part of the family, history.
So you're in the Bay selling. You started. Let me
in the Bay Area, and so after about a year, I was like, well, this was fun, but I'm more a liquidator than really a dealer, because I'm not getting up at 4:00 and becoming American Pickers and rummaging through people's attics. I'm liquidating a collection of 10,000, right? And so after about a year and a half, I was like, well, this was fun, but I'm not gonna stay in this forever. This was just my ticket out of my previous career. But I never realized in a million years that I would have enjoyed sales as much as I did. It never crossed my mind. I mean, I have multiple degrees.
So is it kind of like the what is it, Pawn Wars, where people come in and you say, hey, this is like about $8,000, and I'll give you 4, and then you're like, oh, meet me in the middle, and then you kind of
and that's a great question, because I got caught up into that when I bought my brother and sister out. My dad often did not even remove the price tag from the item, right? It still said like $35, $55, $500. So I was like, wow, there's a lot of money here, right? But when you put, let's say, a little lead toy on a shelf, and you've got the tag that says $35, somebody's got to be willing to pay that, right? It could sit on the shelf for months or years or decades until that right person walks in the door. He was collecting over a lifetime, right? He was collected all this stuff over a lifetime. Yes, if somebody said, Paul, I'll give you top dollar for every single item, then I probably did well with my brother and sister. But I quickly realized that in giving them their cut, right, buying them out of their 2/3 portion, that I paid them way too much. I basically paid them retail when I should have paid them really less than wholesale, because not only am I doing all the work and displaying all of the stuff and periodically selling items piecemeal, but now I've got to pay the rent, right? And
they actually inherit.
Yeah, and then to do a show, well, you've got to pay the show rent, and you got to set up, and you got to take down, and you got gas, and so there's no real profit here.
It almost sounds like the same with your setup for that first podcast that you did, right? You didn't realize what it was going to be like until you showed up in Fillmore.
Exactly.
And then you got a bill, and you're like, oh. Right, so you're already kind of dabbling with that. Maybe that leads into your homeowners when you get a house and you got to flip it and negotiate.
Yes.
But go ahead.
Yes. So, but anyway, the long story short here is that the learning experience was that I never in a million years, even to this day, would have thought about sales had I not inherited that collection and bought my brother and sister out, because I never would have had that opportunity. And I realized in that time that I was, dabbling in antiques, that I would never go back to a desk job. I would never go back to a 9-to-5. I would never work for somebody else again. I would always be my own boss, my own entrepreneur. I would be making mistakes, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it was kind of a feeling of freedom. So then the next piece of it was, well, holy crap. I had just broken up with my girlfriend, the same girlfriend that helped me move all the stuff, a year and a half earlier. I could live anywhere. I could put a pin on the map and go anywhere in the world, right? There was nothing tying me to the Bay Area where I was. And I thought, I'm going to go back to Ventura County where I'd spent all my summers as a kid, living with my grandparents, and I'll be a realtor. And, watching HGTV.
And this is 2021-ish or something? Or 2001
2001.
or something? Yeah.
2001.
So I did the math, 99 plus a year and a half. All right.
Yeah,
We're in the 2001-ish.
Well, then I decided I had to get my real estate license first. So I was renting a room from a friend of a friend and got the real estate license while I was just finishing liquidating the collection, right? I called all the crazy collectors and all the crazy dealers, and I said, hey, come buy the Stein collection and the watch collection and the gun collection and the porcelain sign collection and multiple collections. And so I liquidated, just keeping enough stuff to keep me happy. And then whatever I had left, I threw it in a U-Haul and I moved to Ventura County. And that was in November of 2002. And found a real estate office that I thought would be good fit for me. And that's how it all began. And I had no plan B. I specifically had no plan B because
burn the ships.
Burn the ships. If I had a plan B, there is absolutely a moment in time where I would have fallen back on plan B, because it's like I gave up my dental, I gave up my medical, I gave up my vision, I gave up my vacation. And I'm basically working for the state.
Remember, I gave up Orkin, and I had that talk with my kids. Like, if the only reason that I'm here is so that we have Kaiser, then I need to leave. It's time for me to move on. I have to go, you know, and I'm burning the, and I gave a notice to my management that I could work 3 days a week, and then I'm leaving Memorial Day weekend, and now you're sitting in my studio.
Yeah.
So
look
hear that, folks?
Look what you
And the reason we're saying that is people that are listening, we always have like a moment or two or 10 in a show, again, for motivation for business or pioneers or dreamers that might be listening, of what it takes, the courage that it takes to burn the ships, to not have a plan B, to follow that in and say, hey, I'm not going back to that scenario ever again. And plus, my kids are growing up and moving out, so it's not ideal for everybody, but there is going to be a time where you have to make that decision with yourself if you're ready to make that movement. So I just want to put that in there, though. So no matter what industry you're in, what it is that you're doing, that you got to make. Everybody has to make that self-determination whenever they're ready to do it, when it's their time. So
you want to hear a crazy story along those lines too? When I was literally walking door to door with a Santa Claus hat on my head, asking people if they wanted to sell their house. And that is the definition of insanity. If you look up Wikipedia, or if you look up
Santa Claus coming to buy your house,
it's like, it was insane. But I was.
But did you get any? Because sometimes I say, like, on the hustle tip, like, if you don't go out and prospect, we're supposed to cloverleaf again using pest control, right?
I did.
To get out there and get brave and go door to door cloverleafing. That'll definitely build a level of thickness, and how you get creative and what you do, and confidence builder. So that takes a lot, but also probably nobody else is doing that either. So you got to reverse engineer what makes you different and unique to stand out, to plant a flagpole somewhere to get started, right?
Yep. And I'll never forget where I was. I was getting on the freeway, on the 101 freeway in Camarillo, and feeling sorry for myself. And my grandma popped in my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was as clear as day. Like, I'm seeing your face right now, and I can see, all your blemishes, right? It was like the vision. You look good, Kev. You look good. I could see her in my vision as clear as I see you right now. And then what was interesting was she brought my grandfather and my great uncle. They're sitting at a very specific table in her house. They've all got cocktails in their hand. She's got the cigarette with the ash that's too long. And then she brought probably about 10 other relatives that had all passed away, either when I was an infant or even before my time, right? And I could see them all clearly. I knew who each of them was. I knew their names. I knew how they were connected. I knew how they were related to me. And that vision, pretty dense. I'm pretty dense. Like, I'm not really understanding at the moment what's happening. And it lasted for about 45 seconds, right? The people are sitting there. They're moving, kind of like a Harry Potter painting. Like a Harry Potter painting, like the people are moving in the paintings. And it lasted for about 45 seconds, and then it just all kind of faded away. It's like, come back. And I was just getting on the freeway, and then I was getting off the freeway 2 exits later. So it lasted, for a little over a minute, and then they were gone, right? So I'm not shitting you. So a few months later, I'm rummaging through some piles of papers, and I found a letter that my grandma had written to me, and then my response from years earlier. And she said she was getting her affairs in order because she passed by this time. This is 2003. We're talking 2003. And the letter to her, from her to me, was, hey, I'm putting my affairs in order. What 3 items from my estate would you like? Right? She didn't want the grandkids fighting. She just wanted to put her affairs in order. So I told her that I wanted a very ornate chest, like an Asian chest, which is in my house today. I wanted one other thing. I can't remember what it was. And then the third thing I wanted was, hey, when I'm feeling sorry for myself, why don't you pop into my head and just say hi?
Really?
Yeah. And I had forgotten about that at the time that it happened, right? And I
Did it give you goosebumps or chills when you?
I cried.
Yeah.
I cried because
You made me cry right now. Actually, my grandma. I got a little batch of my grandma's ashes right there
Do
in
you?
my investment. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you're about to make me. Yeah.
So she gave me this gift that I asked for in the response letter. Was she not only did she come, but she brought my grandfather and my great uncle, who I was very close to them as well, and then she brought.
We got to rally around our boy right now. Come on, everybody, get up. That was freaking intense, man.
And I just knew at that moment that I was going to be okay, because I said, hey, why don't you pop in my head when I'm feeling sorry for myself?
Can I give you a quick 30-second story?
Sure.
So when I
absolutely.
was gonna leave Orkin, I was driving back from Fillmore to Santa Paula, that Mountain View Road back there,
South
right?
Mountain Road, yeah.
And I told God, if you really want me to go do this, give me a sign. Like having this done. I think later that day he gave me 7, but I remember that
7
same
signs.
sign, something like that, of being me leaving. Do I do this, right? Because you have this, if I leave again, what they're not going to support me if I have to go, which they were very supportive. They had my 3 days a week, right? And I was still on full time. They just gave me 2 days off,
Right.
And it was a nice departure. But I was already putting in my brain the leaving and giving it up. And I remember telling him, give me a sign, and it was like 7 signs that day, and I was like, I got to go write this letter to resign from this job.
I remember that day, and you were almost weeping with the response that you got. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was like,
That's
well,
awesome.
yeah, we could work that out for your.
But you were on your journey.
Yeah,
You
but
knew.
it was a sign though, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, the point of that was that part. And then here, I'm talking about grandmas. My grandma, her thing was the monarch butterfly. So when I found this location, literally, I came down here to pray, and there was monarchs flying all around this place.
Grandma
and I was
was-
like, I
Grandma
sat
was
down,
looking.
yeah, and I got me a Jersey Mike sandwich, and I ate lunch at this table right here, like if it was already my establishment, and I had my lunch here, and I prayed, and here come these monarchs, man, flying around. And then when they showed us the place, there was like a monarch hitting the window.
Wow.
Like, let me in. That's what I mean.
This one here.
Yeah, so then when my grandma passed away, she left money for my mom, and my mom gave money to help paint this room. And
Nice.
my grandma, I gave her my first presentation to get me this laptop that I still have right here. This is the original real Angler video that my grandma gave me $1,000 to get this laptop with, so I could film and have to be at class.
Awesome.
And that's why I have a picture over up there, man.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you bring grandma.
I got a picture of my grandma on my wall.
Yeah, and one of the things is when I used to personal train people or whatever we do, like, are you making your grandma proud right now?
Right.
Like, would grandma be sitting in that's my baby, that's my baby. So sometimes when you get tired at the gym and you want to, your last couple of sets, I call those, am I making grandma proud? So that's interesting.
And what's crazy too is that she tried to bribe me. In jest, but it was like if I moved to Ventura County, or if I went to Cal Poly for college, she was going to buy me a car. But if I went to UC Davis, she was only going to give me a loan, right? Because it was too far for me to visit her very frequently. And I said, Grandma, I'm still going to go to Davis, but I'll come visit you, as often as I can. But she was quite a character.
Visit you.
She came to visit me, in the afterlife.
So now you're selling houses. I hate to jump that, but I know you
Yep.
got somewhere to go. It's that was a good story. Give me the knuckles on that, man.
Hey,
That's
man, absolutely.
because sometimes you're gonna, again, as a business a person and going through times, man, you're gonna ask for signs, right? And sometimes those signs might be the ones that we want, right? They could be a door closing, a door opening, and those are individual decisions that we have to make, right? Is now the time. So with that being said, with signs, what do you see the signs of for homeowners now, or where the market's going and the
Sure.
changes and what's coming to California, election year, and all these other things that have to do with, again, us living in California and the homes, of the lack of homes and things like
Right.
that I hear in different meetings and stuff. What do you see the signs coming up as in your industry?
Sure. Well, I if there's a will, there's a way, right? If you really, really want a house, there's a way to get it. It is not as easy as it used to be. Certainly for young people, it's a much more challenging environment. And I will say for where we live, wedged in between Los Angeles to the south and Santa Barbara to the north, we are quote unquote more affordable, but it's still unaffordable, I would say, for most young people that are starting out, and even people that don't have a house. It's just very, very hard to get in. So there are I kind of give you three things. COVID really changed our area, right? California's 40 million people. 10 million of those people are in LA County, so 25% of the entire state lives in one county, right? 10 million people. We have less than a million, right? We have 950,000 in Ventura County, just north of LA County. And now that people are working from home, they're telecommuting, they go into the office once a week, once a month, they could live anywhere, right? And so if a, nothing house in Woodland Hills is 2 million, and they can come up to, Oxnard,
beautiful
Ventura County, and the same house is, 1.2, 1.3, even though interest rates have doubled and tripled, they're saving money in their mind, right? Because they're not paying 2 million, they're paying 1.2.
So you have a lot of people transplanting.
A lot of people transplanting, and they're loving our prices because, and they're loving our weather.
And they love our area, right?
They love our area. So that's why our area has not dipped in prices, is because you're seeing a huge influx of LA County people moving up here, right? That's not going to slow down at all. So I would say So
do you prospect outside of this area then when you're selling versus Ventura residents? Do you get people that are looking to purchase homes up here that call you as your clientele? Do you have like a connection down there where your I guess your reach is trying to sell houses to, like me, I lived in Ventura County trying to buy a house here.
Right.
Do you have connection with LA people so that you're making, those are your people now too? Are you connected with them?
I sell myself through through social media, through creating videos. I put content down there, kind of selling our area up here. And then of course, if people already, of course have heard of Ventura County, or they've certainly driven through, they'll find me one way or the other through, marketing and social media.
So about how many of those, try to keep time in mind, how many of those, is there a ratio of, your Ventura County home buyers to LA?
It's flipped. It's completely flipped. So before the LA County person, let's say 7, 8, 10 years ago, they were kind of the weekend looky-loo, right? It was maybe 1 out of 10 would be an LA County buyer that would actually purchase. Oh, I've only got 3 years till retirement, or I only have to go in the office 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for 3 years, and then I retire, right? Or maybe they were wealthy where it was a weekend house. They would come up on a Thursday and go back to the city on a Sunday. Now it's completely flipped on its head. Now it's 9 out of 10, and I don't have any stats on this, so don't quote me on this or say that I'm wrong. But in my experience, right now it's about 9 out of 10, which is huge, 90%. Of the people that I'm showing property to are based in LA County and want to move to Ventura County.
Does that make your closing percentage better because they have the finances to purchase up here versus going through all the different legalities? Is it
they still have to qualify, but yeah, they're serious. They're typically qualified, but it's keeping our prices elevated. So what I would say for the local person who's frustrated about getting in, there's certain things that you can do. One is this is not the only solution, but there are, local government assistance programs for people that qualify.
I'm getting there.
That's one option. If that's not an option, there might be another option where, and I know people that have absolutely done this, and I've done this myself, where you get multiple people to buy a house, right? Let's say 3, 4, 5 people to go in. Each person has a percentage of ownership. It's called tenants in common. So you could be a 10% owner, you could be a 20% owner, 25% owner, based on your initial contribution to the down payment. And then one of those people would typically be the tenant owner, right? I did this where I bought a property with 3 other people. I was a 20% owner, okay? I was a 20% owner, and I was also a tenant in my own house. So I felt pride of ownership, right? I still own that property today. I'm still a 20% owner. I felt pride of ownership at the same time I was a tenant. The other owners felt good because they were investing in something real estate related, and they liked me as their tenant, their built-in owner/tenant. The other option is if you bought a property and you qualified as an individual, and let's say you don't have a family, or the layout of the house is such that the house could be shared. So let's say you're a single person, single guy, 35, you qualify for a townhome. Let's say a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhome. I'm going to get the master bedroom, right? I'm going to get the master bedroom and the master bathroom as the owner, and I'm going to find 2 other guys that want to be my tenants, right? And they're going to, for $1,200, they can rent a room for $1,200 or $1,000. And now I've got $2,000 in rent or $2,400 in rent coming in to offset my mortgage, right? So my mortgage is $4,000, but I've got 2 tenants that are helping pay half of my rent. And that's not my permanent solution, right? That's just to get my foot in the door, right? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, maybe I sell that property, I've got equity. Now I can buy something different, take the equity from that, and I don't necessarily need to have the roommate situation. But I know multiple people that have done that. Single people.
I'm gonna try that one down.
Yeah, men and women. And it's called
45 years old, yeah.
tenants in common, right? You each put down a percentage, and your percentage of ownership is based on the down payment contribution that you made. And then you would also need a contract, right? That we're going to hold this property for 3 years, 5 years, and then revisit, because some people might want their contribution, out at that point. So this is not like a permanent solution, because you've got investors.
Everybody helping everybody.
Yeah,
do something.
Yeah, but it's the value's going to go up in our area. I mean, market goes up and down, but you could strategically decide when you're going to sell, and the group is going to liquidate at some point.
Probably one of the sounds like one of the in the book I talk about a lot is The Richest Man in Babylon, when they kind of went in together to purchase certain things, wealthy men putting money together for that, and then they sell it and they'll make a profit depending on how much they put in at the initial purchase.
Sure.
See that? Those principles have been around for a long time, man. Just utilizing them.
But I think too many people want that perfect house to be their first house, right? It's like, no, just get your foot in the door.
Told her yesterday at church group, man, that it's the first one's the hardest after that, right? Then you get the other ones. It's always that first one, and then you build your equity, then you build your credit. I just think sometimes down here where we live at, it's our mindset. If you know the rules of gold again from that book, to you it seems like, and the ideology of what we think success looks like, and we want that thing, versus will I sacrifice to go this route for 3 years to further myself down the road, right? And those different rules and combinations. So that's why we put in our meeting last night the importance of finding wise counsel. So if somebody comes to you and says, like myself, you say, okay, well, here's some options, Kev, and you're not a hard seller, you're not trying to sell a house and get on,
right?
You're like, okay, well, then let's try this option, and this is a great option temporarily, and then it's the sums to another means later, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So that's why you get wise counsel. Talk to Paul again, and talk to, or if you're not in this area, realtor, to get those different ideas, versus somebody just wants to open sell you something and move on, that you get wise counsel to different opportunities and options, and it might not be your time right then and there, but at least you have a target to aim for as you're continuing to build your home and build your family and set yourself up long term. All right, we got about 3 minutes left because you guys both got to get out of here. Anything you want to tell our viewers that might, a good piece of nugget to get started as a, saving a certain amount, or just getting ready? Any small thing that you could leave? Just a first, a little nugget for the people that are looking to purchase a home or buy anything, you as a professional, that you could give them advice on?
Sure. I would say don't be discouraged, right? I mean, if as I said earlier, if there's a will, there's a way. I would probably talk to 2 or 3 lenders. Don't just settle for the first one that you talk to, but talk to 2 or 3, because they're not all created equal, and put together a plan, right? A lot of people have the cart before the horse, right? They go out to open houses. They're not pre-approved. They don't know how much house they could buy, right? And they become discouraged because they find the dream house, but the dream house might not be the best house, right?
Don't give up on your dreams, right?
Don't give up.
Find the plan. Same with the book. Plan, financial planning. Have a plan. I told him last night in the same church group that Dora the Explorer doesn't go anywhere without her map, right? She has a plan on how she's going to get to the little Smoky Mountain. And sometimes I use these little small what do you call that, metaphors. But just to be like how basic it is, right? There's your house over there, but you might got to go over the bridge and past the little the Weeping Mountain and all that. But at least you have a plan so that you could work towards it.
Like I just said earlier, like if you get so many people get discouraged and they quit, right? But don't quit. So, for instance, if you find out that you qualify for $4,000 a month or $3,000 a month, and you're like, oh well, that's great that they're willing to give me that money, but I won't have any money left over for food, right? It's like, well, maybe you could find a roommate or two roommates. Maybe the layout of the house is that there's an extra door where that person is going in and out of that room without disrupting, your living environment. I'm just saying there's creative ways to make this happen.
Reverse engineering. So again, let me just wrap up with this right here, right? First thing I said when you said we burn the bridges, we're going to call this the name of this podcast, Scotty, is don't be discouraged, okay? Because we talked about burning the ships, right? You have to have courage, right? You got to, don't be discouraged. Get wise counsel, no plan B. Encourage one another, encourage yourself. If you have to have that one-on-one talk with yourself, be your self-encourager. And look at ways to reverse engineer what ideally was the way to go about it, where you're willing to sacrifice and do what's necessary for a long-term goal of your plan. So if it is to, have that, when your common people, what's it called? The common interest or something? That way, that there's other ways to the means if you're willing to sacrifice. Maybe not put all your pride in there because that's gonna help you down the road, and think of a bigger plan, And a sure plan is better than no plan, right? So if you have a sure plan and you're a planner and you're going about it the right correctional steps and getting counsel to get you through those doors and navigate you through it, that you're gonna be successful.
Absolutely. Right? Good advice.
And that's a sign from Paul Ward, Community Kev, Barry, and Scotty. Don't be discouraged. We'll see you next time again, Scott. Oh, we're going to get a hold of you. One more time with the name of your podcast and where they could hear more about your stories.
On the Road with Paul Ward. That's a YouTube channel, actually. So, it's also on Spotify and whatnot, but go to the YouTube channel, On the Road with Paul Ward. And website is homeandranchteam.com. And, of course, my cell, 805-479-5004.
All right, man. A good friend of mine. Thank you so much. You're helping to get my house, man.
Absolutely.
We're getting there. If we get
some mug, by the way.
Oh yeah, Community Kev. Wow, a little gift for Kev. All right, this is Barry right here, the Care Bear. Caring is sharing, and don't be discouraged, right? Because if you're a bear, you got to have all the courage. We're out. Bye. Let's go.
Brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Islands Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. Promar and Ahi USA. Premium fishing products and accessories with concepts developed by passionate anglers. Eagle Claw, American ingenuity and craftsmanship since 1925. Mudhole, the world's largest inventory of rod building and tackle crafting components from the best brands. Mossy Oak, from hot days in the water to sweltering afternoons in the woods, we've got you covered. Outfit your obsession. Special thanks to Subaru of Ventura and the Latino Business Expo. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.